I'm Wendy from shinyhappyworld.com, and today I'm going to show you how to do something called couching. It's a way to stitch down a ribbon or a fancy thread using embroidery stitches. Okay, what we're sewing on, this is a piece of satin cord, and this is really too big to stitch on itself. It would be very bumpy and it's kind of stiff. It wouldn't make the turns very well if you tried to back stitch it. But I want this curve to be done in that satin cord. So I've got a little curve marked on here that I'm going to follow. So what you do is you lay that cord along the curve. I'm going to put my first stitch in first. So I'm going to come up. I'm using a contrasting color. Now I'm going to lay my cord down and I'm going to just stitch over it with this thread, the embroidery thread. On the end it's kind of hard because that tail is wanting to pop out, but once you get going it's pretty easy. So I've got one stitch and I'm just going to keep doing stitches all along the length of that curve. And I'm going to try and make them spaced pretty evenly, and I move that cord out of my way a little bit so I can make sure that I'm laying right on that line. This is a nice way to add some real dimension to your work because it allows you to stitch something on there that really stands up quite a bit from the surface of what you're working on. You can do any kind of fancy cords this way, or ribbons. You can even do some fancy yarns, things that would, that not necessarily because they're so big. This one we had to couch down because it was very fat, but some things that are just decorative and fancy that would really wear to be pulled through the fabric over and over again, you might choose to couch those down instead. This would make a great snake looking at this one. But you could use it for decorative scroll work, things like that. I'll stop there, that gives you the idea. So on this one I used a full 6 strands of the thread over it, so it's really a noticeable little stripe effect. You could use a thinner thread. You could do a French knot over top of it. That would be a really dimensional work. You have a lot of options with ways that you can fancy it up, but at its heart, couching is just sewing one cord to the fabric, just using little tiny stitches over it all along the length of it. Turn it sideways so that you can see how much that stands up from the surface. Isn't that nice? So that's it. That's called couching. Very simple, really. You're just laying one cord down on your fabric and then stitching over it with small stitches in a matching or contrasting color or with fancy stitches, but at its heart it's really just laid down and stitched over it to hold in place. I'm Wendy from shinyhappyworld.com. I'll see you next time.